Since the beginning of this year, I have been making a tool to work with Unity timelines to make cutscenes within Unity. So effectively, it is my tool window where you can add sections and add tracks, and then you can just click make timeline, and it will automatically create a Unity timeline. And this is because I actually tried to make my own cutscene using Unity timeline, and let's just say it was like very tedious. I ended up creating like 9 different cameras, and I created all the cameras myself by like moving them around. And then I created like a little signal receiver to change the text, and I did all the animations, like moving everybody around the screen by myself, etc. So I decided, wait, this is way too complicated. I'm going to create my own tool to make this process easier. And in doing so, I ended up having to make a lot of custom tracks and stuff, which in themselves are useful. But I have created a basic enough tool now that has enough functionality to create a decent cutscene. Like it's not very detailed, it's not a cinematic, it's a very basic cutscene. So I thought I would actually try and recreate the first cutscene that I made without using any custom tracks or anything. I'll try recreating it, see whether we can get a similar look and see what the downfalls of my tool are versus the actual benefit of the tool is as well. So this is the cutscene that I made manually and how it actually looks running in game. So when I try and recreate this, there's going to be some issues because some of the like spinning camera angles we're not going to be able to recreate. But overall, we should be able to make something similar. But if there's anything we can't recreate, that's something that we should discuss. Like, is it actually better to manually make timelines? But at the same time, because it just makes a Unity timeline, it's not like you can't use my tool and then just create your own timeline on top of it. So add your own custom tracks or edit the tracks. Like it just becomes a timeline that you can edit. So at the end of the day, it just speeds up some of the processes. But let's have a go at trying to recreate it. Okay, so let's try and recreate the cutscene. So this is my cutscene tool. So you can change the name of the timeline. So we'll call this, you know, Pokemon Scarlet because it's a cutscene from Pokemon Scarlet. And then in our text UI, we need to get wherever our text is. Like you have to, you can set up whatever UI you want in whatever style, and you can just drag it into here, and it will change the text. And then we're going to pick a camera, and we only need one camera, and it will just change all the camera angles for it. And then we're going to add our first section and add a track. And we want to animate our characters. So I have our main characters. We want to animate our rival so that she is talking, which is this one. And then we want to animate our main character so that he is idle. And we want this to go on for about 3 frames. And we should add our camera, which we want to be focused on the rival. At the moment, it you can pick an object and it will face towards the front of the object. So wherever the rival's face is, it's going to be looking at that, which is why the camera angles aren't the best for like actual, you know, doing custom things. But at the same time, if you really wanted to, you could edit the timeline and edit the cameras. But for now, this is a good basic thing for people who don't want to set up cameras. Because setting up cameras in 3D spaces, I found it really irritating to do. So we just want it to be a still shot, so we don't need to make it zoom in, zoom out, or pan across. And we don't need to track the game object because she's not actually moving currently. And then the other thing that we need to add is, well, we don't need to add any movement for now, but we do need to add our dialogue. Okay, for now, we're going to save uh save our cutscene And then let's make this timeline. We don't need this one. We're going to make our timeline and we're going to see how it's done. So we have our animations, we have our subtitle, and we have our camera. So let's actually play this and see how it looks. I tried changing it from medium shot to long shot to hopefully get the main character in the frame as well, because I've chosen the exact same position for the character, but because we have different camera angles, I realized we're gonna have to move the characters. So I think if we put him here, that creates a better version. We can actually see both of them on frame, and we have our text and our animations. So it's time to create the rest of the cutscene. So to make the next part of the cutscene, all we're going to do is we can add a new section, and if we want to, we can uh, close this section so that it's out of the way, and then I'm going to show you the movement. So we have a movement track where you can pick the characters you want to move, and then you can give them a direction and the distance to move, and they will move to that direction for the whole duration of the frame. So that is very limited movement, and if you then put the track camera tick to yes, it will follow their movements, but at the same time it follows their movements while looking at their face. So tracking movements doesn't really work. It's better to like pan the camera instead. It's definitely something I'm gonna have to improve. But for now, I'm going to create the rest of the cutscene. The cutscene was a lot more clunkier than when I made it manually, but at the same time, it took like 20 minutes to make it rather than like 5 hours. So I'd say it does speed up the process, but there's still a bunch of things that you will have to like adjust on the timeline. But as you can see, it has made a timeline which you could totally edit. But the final thing that I want to do is I want to talk about my custom tracks that I made for the timeline, which the tool it automatically saves into these tracks. We have the dialogue one, a camera one, and a movement one. Okay, so the camera track, you simply take your camera and you put it in here, and then you add a camera clip, and then you can generate God's eye, long shot, medium shot, close up, and you choose what character you want to focus on, and then you can decide whether you zoom in, zoom out, or pan across the screen, or if the character is going to move, you might want to track the camera. I do actually have a video showing off all of the camera angles. And then we have our subtitle track where you simply just put the text and then you add a subtitle clip. And then whatever text you want to display on the screen, however you've done this text, it will display. And then finally we have a movement track where you just add a movement clip and you can say move left, right, up, down. And then you can select who you want to move, whether it's a character or an object, and how far you want them to move. And they will move to that distance throughout the entire clip.